Okay, so this is question 5 from the mock paper. The halogens are very reactive. This is because of the way that the nucleus holds the electrons around each atom. The relative atomic mass of one type of chlorine is 37. This chlorine atom has 17 electrons around the nucleus. Use this information to decide how many protons and how many neutrons are in the nucleus of a chlorine atom. Okay, so to be able to work this out, we need to have a bit of background information. Okay, so this is that information as it would be shown in the periodic table. Remember, that's on the back of the paper. This is the relative atomic mass. This is the proton number, or the number of electrons, which was given to us in the paper. So what we need to remember is that the number of protons in any atom is the number of electrons. Okay, so protons and electrons are always the same in an atom. So if there are 17 electrons, there are going to be 17 protons. Now, if you're wondering why that is, it's because protons have got a positive charge, electrons have got a negative charge, and so you always have to have the same number of protons and electrons to cancel out the charge, to have zero charge overall. Okay, so that's working out your number of protons. We then want to look at the number of neutrons. Now, the number of neutrons is the relative atomic mass here, 37, minus the number of protons. Okay, so it's 37 minus 17, and that equals 20. Now, the reason for that is because protons and neutrons have got a mass of 1 each, but electrons don't have any mass. Okay, so electrons aren't involved in working out the mass of the atom because they don't weigh anything. Okay, but protons and neutrons have got the same mass. So if you've got the overall mass and you know the number of protons is 17, if you take away 17, you'll be left with how many neutrons there are. Okay, so just to go over that again, the proton number is the number of protons, which is the same as the number of electrons. Okay, the number of neutrons is the relative atomic mass, 37, minus the number of protons, 17, which is 20. Okay, so that's the first part of the question done. Okay, so part B, the electron arrangement is 2.8.7 for a chlorine atom. The element fluorine is also a halogen. What is the electron arrangement for a fluorine atom? Okay, so again, we're going to need that periodic table that's on the back of the paper. If we look in the periodic table, we see that there are 9 electrons. Remember, this bottom number tells us protons and electrons. 9 electrons in a fluorine atom. Okay, so we need to start building up our picture of what fluorine looks like. So, in the first shell of electrons, we can have up to 2 electrons. So we'll add those in. So that's the crosses there. Okay, that's 2 electrons. The next shell can contain up to 8 electrons. Now we've actually only got 7 left because the 2 here have come from the original 9. That leaves us with 7, so we'll put our 7 remaining electrons in. So we've got 2 in the inner shell, 7 in the outer shell. So if we look back at the question paper, chlorine was 287, so that's 2 in the first shell, 8 in the next shell, 7 in the outer shell. In our fluorine, we only had 2 in the first shell, 7 in the next shell. So our answer would be 27, which is shown here. Okay, so part C of this question asks, when halogens react with metals, the halogen atoms become charged. Describe how the halogen atoms turn into charged particles. So let's go back and have a look at our picture of fluorine again. Okay, so here's our fluorine atom. Okay, there is on the outer shell, just like all of the other halogens, there are 7 electrons on the outer shell. Notice that leaves a space here, so 1 space before it becomes a full outer shell. Okay, so what can happen is that if it reacts with a metal, then the electron from the metal will go into the space there, and that will give it a full outer shell which is more stable. So that's it there. This now means that it's got one electron more than it had originally. So if we look at our number of protons and electrons, we've got 9 protons. Remember, protons have got a positive charge. We've got 10 electrons. Electrons have got a negative charge. So overall, we've got one more electron than we have proton. So we've got a 1 minus charge. Okay, so that atom is no longer an atom, it's become an ion. Remember, an ion is a charged particle. It's an ion with a 1 minus charge because it's got one more electron than it has the protons. So let's look back at the mark scheme. Okay, the mark scheme says as long as we're talking about the movement of an electron, and that we're talking about just one electron being moved, and it is the halogen that gains the electron, okay, and that goes in the outer shell, and that means that we have one more electron than proton, then we've got our full marks. You only needed to get 3 of those points to be able to get the marks. Okay, so you've got 3 out of a potential of 5 marks there. Okay, the next part of the question will be following shortly.